Welcome back to FinWeek Money Matters. Now, arguably one of the biggest changes facing the financial services sector industry in South Africa is the introduction of treating customers fairly legislation, which will place the consumer front of mind when it comes to offering products or services or advice. One of the key concerns, though, is that the legislation may negatively impact advisors and disintermediate the very people who it was supposed to help. Shaan Watkins, he's the head of Stanlib, LISP, and Owen, Nkomo, executive partner at Inkunzi Investments. They join us at the desk for this discussion. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time you've taken to join us. Shaan, maybe let's start off with just putting the bones on the ground. There seems to be a lot of confusion around this piece of legislation. What in essence is being proposed, and how is this likely to impact the industry negatively, as we've said in the intro?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Sipho, and thank you for having me. The Treating Your Customers Fairly Policy and Act is basically an act to regulate market conduct in the industry. It's to ensure that financial services providers treat customers fairly. And that is the essence of it.
Why has it created such confusion? I mean, it seems as if financial services institutions in particular are a bit confused about the scope of this legislation and how far it actually is going to be impacting into their work and the industry broadly.
Yeah. From Stanlib's side, we don't believe there are any confusion. Treating your customer fairly is a cultural thing. It's your DNA. It's the way you do things. When you look at product, when you look at and putting proposals forward to clients, it's the way you talk to clients and advise them and provide them information afterwards. I don't believe there are confusion about treating your customers fairly.
I think one of the challenges that the industry is going to face is whether it's going to squeeze out the smaller players in the market versus whether it actually plays into the bigger operators rather than the smaller advisor type models. I think there's a concern that trying to look after, traditionally a financial advisor, I think we were discussing it off air, could have 250 clients and see them occasionally. This kind of legislation is going to see them having to look after 150 clients and making sure they get it right every time. I think that's a fair comment.
Mark, I believe, or we believe at Stanlib, believe that that if you do things right today, and you treat your customers fair today, then it shouldn't change much to how you operate and run your business. Okay. Yes, it brings about a commitment from both the product provider and the financial advisor, and it means that you need to be more diligent in the ways that you act with clients. Now that might mean that that the time you spend with clients increase, and to get around to all your clients might mean that you might have less clients as a financial advisor. But if you're doing the things right, it shouldn't have a huge impact on you as a financial advisor or as a product provider.
Owen, is this just another layer of compliance, or are we actually seeing a move towards rethinking business models and how we service customers and how we position them in the business model in essence?
Look, I believe that, as my colleague has said, that looking after your clients should be part of what your business is set up to do. And unfortunately, you get a challenge when you've got many different players, and it becomes too difficult for the FSP to monitor all those individual companies. Most of these companies will have one key individual that's the representative of the business, that's marketing the business, that's doing the administration, that's doing the compliance. So there is no way someone who's operating on his own can actually manage a big number of clients fairly and give them enough attention. So my belief is that the FSP and the regulators in the country have progressively instituted a lot of these rules that are going to be positive, in my view, in terms of making sure that clients do actually get the right service. When you do a consultation with the client from the beginning, the interests of the client should always be put first. What does the client want? Not what does the broker want or what does the representative want.
Yeah.
When you look at a client, you should not see fees, but you need to say, here's someone who's looking for my advice. My intellectual capital should come to the fray here. if you help the client as best as is possible, you should be able to reap the rewards from a good referral network that comes through from the clients you help. So I believe that treating clients fairly is a very important aspect of our businesses. It's going to make sure that we actually get more professional about how we do things. Squeeze the small guys out. Well, should we have a small guy that cannot service their clients fully in the first place? In an environment that is so well regulated, in an environment that actually needs a lot more support structures in the business, can you service 100 clients fairly?
I see Mark is dying and itching to get into to fight back that.
Because may I qualify that I'm not saying we don't want to have smaller businesses. We don't want to have the one guy looking after 100 clients.
Yeah.
But can he please do that only if he can afford to do it properly?
Sure,
And if he cannot, is putting the clients at a disadvantage, Mark.
But I think it ends up, we're trying to encourage entrepreneurial spirit in the country.
Yes.
So we want smaller players to get in there. And I totally agree with you. One person can't service 100 clients fairly.
Yeah.
But the problem with the financial service or the advisor model is that there's a tipping point where it actually is worth doing it. But and as you grow, you obviously you need to reach a certain number of clients to be able to make the business worthwhile.
Yeah.
But if you don't have you can't carry a cost base of 3 or 4 people filling compliance, filling administration, filling advice, if you can't get to that tipping point. So it almost feels like it's just putting a further barrier up, protecting those guys that are in the industry at the moment and not allowing new players in.
No, I actually disagree with you totally, because my take is that the industry, everyone who gets into this industry knows that it's increasingly getting more regulated. Why is it getting more regulated? Because you've got an old lady in Kofinvaba who's got a life policy that has got an accelerated benefit, and they absolutely think it's the best thing in the world. They do not know that there's other things you can do with that life policy to reap more benefits from it. And you know what? Kofinvaba is just too far for the regulators to actually even go there and be more proactive and actually educate the people in that space and say, by the way, if you're meeting your financial advisor, this is what you can expect from him. So in a way, those people could continue to be disenfranchised if rules like these don't get implemented. And I think it's important to realize that if you're playing in this industry, you're servicing a client and you do not meet any of these criteria, should we allow you to keep your license? We want a clean industry that gives the right services to the clients, and we want to stick to the regulatory environment. Yes, let us have new entrants in the business, but they must be well resourced to stick to the dictates and the expectations of the regulatory environment. And just by the way, South Africa's regulated environment for financial markets, probably top 10 in the world, and you guys know that. And if we were to loosen these things just to accommodate more people, I think would achieve the negative result.
I'm going to play referee now. Okay, time out.
There?
So Tanvi, your turn. Let's see what you can bring to the table.
Can I put you on the spot, Owen?
Go ahead, Tandy.
Shaan was saying that, if you've been running your business according to the book,
Yes.
there's no reason you will have to struggle
Yes.
implementing this act or TCF. And I've spoken to a lot of, especially insurers, and
Yeah.
all of them are saying, no, this is how we've been practicing. This has been our business model.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy to simply implement this thing. It's a simple exercise. It's been our life all along.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Look, I agree, definitely, because there isn't a lot of, all that the TCF's talking about is saying, when you have a client that is paying you 500 rands a month into a retirement annuity, and you're getting 5 rands a month from that annuity as your income, and you got a client that is paying you 10,000, or a client who's an institutional client paying you 2 million rands, and you're making more money than this guy, it says that both those clients need to be treated the same. It's just like in soccer, when you're refereeing Kaizer Chiefs playing a
Orlando
smaller
Pirates.
team.
A small,
Excuse me?
useless team
Excuse
like
me,
Orlando
ma'am?
Pirates, yes.
I think we'll take this outside. I mean, if you have to be objective, you will treat all the 16 teams fairly as a referee. It does not matter who's contributing more into the league in terms of bringing in the revenue through gate sales. So this is exactly what the industry wants to address. And I believe that if you are a half decent financial services practitioner, all of these things that are being elevated in TCF, you've actually been practicing them. We're just now policing them and making sure that they get implemented, and individual clients get as much attention as the bigger clients. But the flip side to it is this: if you feel like you're not, you cannot service your clients properly, given TCF, and you need to bring in more resources, you're going to have to start charging probably more money for your consultations. That is how you can then get more skills into your practice. It's going to result in an increase in the costs. If the smaller business players are going to stay in the business longer, they have to charge more for consultation.
Shaan, I want to maybe move it along a little bit in terms of the tithe versus the independent advisor.
Yes.
Is this not playing straight back into the tithe environment where you are going to simply have what? Let's use Stanlib as the example. People are simply going to go with the houses that they know rather than going the independent model.
Mark, we believe there's a space for both. Okay, we believe that it is a partnership between the product provider and the financial advisor. It's no longer the financial advisor that are being regulated by phase at the end of the customer. So each one of us has a responsibility. Now, I believe what's going to happen is that you will find that financial advisors, because now of the requirements of TCF, will start aligning them with 1 or 2 product providers and not 3 and 4 product providers, because it's going to be a hard job for them to comply to the requirements of TCF. You need to do due diligence on your product provider needs to do due diligence on the financial advisor, you need to understand the product, you need to be trained in the product, you need to be kept up to date in terms of, so it is going to increase the workload of both the product provider and the financial advisor. So you will find financial advisors that start aligning them rather than having multiple. So, and that may just drive the smaller financial advisor to a tight environment.
But is the customer the winner then? I mean, or have we just gone back to the model where we were essentially supporting the privileged few?
From Stanlib's side, we believe that the customer will end up being the winner, because the customer will be advised on products that's feasible to its requirements, and because the financial advisor will be much more informed of what the product provider has to offer. So yes, I think the customer will win in the long. We believe that the customer will win in the long run.
Final comments from you, Owen, on how you see the customer benefiting at the end of the day from TCF?
You know what, I think I will speak from a very biased perspective, because when we looked at the TCF dictates and we looked at our business, we realized that the way we've been operating, making sure that you bring in a client, you do financial needs analysis for the client, you do a risk questionnaire for the client, and then you do an implementation strategy for the client. You get different solutions, and then you narrow them down together with the client and give him the best solution. These are the 2 best options we think you should go with, and these are the advantages and disadvantages of each. So if all our wealth managers go out and they do exactly what we've been doing in our business, I think that this is not going to be a difficult hurdle. But my biggest worry is the increase in costs, because it just means we need to spend more time with each client. And if a client needs good service, they will have to pay for it, unfortunately.
Before we close quickly, Mark, do you see the FSB as actually having the muscle to enforce this legislation once it goes ahead?
I don't think it's so much a case of FSB trying to enforce it. I think what they're trying to do is have a self-regulating industry. I think they're just, if you look at the FSB, they are stretched incredibly thin.
Yeah.
They look after an incredibly big market relative to the amount of resources that they have available. What you want is a responsible industry, and I think that is the issue that you want. You want a responsible asset management, you want a responsible advisor, and you want a responsible product broker going all the way through the value chain, because then it is a fair shake of the tree.
Towards a more responsible financial services industry. Thank you, gentlemen. That was Shaan Watkins, head of Stanlib, LISP, and Owen Nkomo, executive partner at Inkunzi Investments.